Welcome, thanks for joining us. So first and foremost, CV. We talk a lot to candidates about CVs and how to format and how to prepare these and what looks best and what isn't great. And I think it's quite challenging for a lot of people to understand maybe what is the right and wrong thing to put on a CV. The most important thing that you can do with a CV is just be clear and concise. Don't sort of overcomplicate things. Don't make it, too sort of overly complicated with things like pictures or photos. It's nice to have a photo on there, but actually the employer that's looking at your CV or the agent that's looking at your CV is really going to be interested in the skills that you have and not so much what you look like. So bear that in mind when you're putting images and things onto your CV. So going on from that sort of point about being clear and concise, you also want to make it enticing. You want to reach out to that person who's looking at your CV and say, hey, I'm the person for this job that you are looking for. So give me a call and we'll have a chat. And so really your CV is doing all the talking for you. And if you've got an agency like us here at Juice, then that's the great benefit of having an agency working on your behalf, that someone can pick up the phone and talk to that potential prospective employer and talk to them about your experience. But actually, if you don't have that and you're applying to a role directly, then that CV is really got to be doing all the talking for you. So it's really important to ensure that what you're putting out there is a true and strong representation of you as a person. So one thing I talk a lot about with candidates is about tailoring their CVs. It's really great to have a standard CV, something to kind of have almost like as a base to work from. So I would definitely start with that if you don't have a CV or you haven't updated your CV in a long time. The most important thing will be is to kind of make sure you've got the key basics on your CV. So we'll start from the top of the CV. I haven't got an image to show you, unfortunately, not that high tech here. So I'm just going to kind of give you a rundown of what I believe should be on a CV. And if you have any questions, then please feel free just to shout out. So first and foremost, contact details. You will never believe how many CVs that I come across that do not have an email address or a telephone number. If I am interested in your CV and your skill set, how am I supposed to contact you? So the first things first, do make sure that you have your name, your telephone number and email address. You can put your address on there, but I don't think address is really important unless you are applying for a job that specifically needs you to be in a particular region. We know now that many people are working from home, so actually there's quite a lot more flexibility around your location now, which is really great actually for a lot of people. So do think about that, but do feel free to put that on there, or maybe just sort of the first part of your postcode can be really helpful to identify where that person might be. So that's really important. Make sure you have a way of contacting or someone to contact you on your CV. The next bit is going to be your personal profile. Now, a lot of people skip this. I don't know why. It can literally just be a paragraph about you as an individual and telling that person who's reading your CV what you're all about. So the most important thing for this is actually to keep it concise, keep it clear, and just talk a little bit about you. So give some idea of kind of sort of person that you are. What do you pride yourself on in your work? Are you really strongly motivated? Are you highly organised? Think about the role that you're applying to as well, because that's also going to be affecting what you want to put in that profile. So for the basics, just maybe sort of put a maybe a paragraph at the top and talk about you as an individual and what you think are your strengths you can bring to a role. Underneath that, I think it's great to have key skills. So you probably want to look at maybe doing a few bullet points. Again, think about your strengths in terms of your work history and what you feel you can stand out to an employer for. So if you are a really strong administrator, then you want to put that on there, that you're a confident administrator, that you maybe have, 5 years worth of experience in working in an admin role. You might want to include that you've done things like project coordination or project management. Highlight any sort of key areas that you feel are going to highlight your skill set to that employer. And again, talk about kind of your attributes. So, are you going to be hardworking? Have you got great communication skills? If you're applying for a role that involves talking to a lot of customers, then make sure that you're putting on that you understand, what makes good customer service. It's great to see on CVs or customer service, but it doesn't really feel like a lot of effort has gone into that. So try and be objective. Try and think, if I was the employer, what would I want to see on that CV to entice me to think, you know what, I'm going to give this person a call. That's the mindset you want to be in when you're writing a CV. So once you've done your key skills, you probably want to keep that to maybe I don't know, 4, 5, maybe 6, if you've got a particularly broad range of skills, then make sure that's on there. It's great to also highlight transferable skills. So if you are maybe moving from one career to another and you're looking for that change, then think about those transferable skills. That's going to be something that's really key for you on that CV. So underneath that, you can also put things like your education or career highlights. So if you've been working on a particular project in the last 6 months on a contract role that you're really proud of, then highlight that, talk to the employer, especially if it's relevant to the role that you're applying to. If you are doing more of a generic CV, then I'd probably make sure that that is reflective of the type of work that you're generally applying for. You don't want to sort of narrow down your search to kind of talk into great detail about a particular area of your skill set when you might be applying for something that doesn't really involve that type of skill. So do bear that in mind when you're putting that on your CV. So underneath sort of career highlights and educational highlights, you also then want to put your career history. So we want to start with the most relevant and recent first. And you want to include your job title, your company that you've worked for, and also the start and finish date if you have one. So if you are still in a job, then obviously put to present, that's obviously an obvious one. But if you have finished, say you've had a recent redundancy, feel free to put that on your CV. It's really good when an agency or an employer is looking at a CV and thinking, gosh, you know, this person's not worked for a while, and I'm kind of a blank as to why. So I don't think many people tend to put on reasons for leaving anymore. That used to be quite a common thing we saw maybe a few years ago, but maybe on the most recent role that you have, if you have left that position, then do maybe make a note of that, either in the bracket at the top where your job title is, or possibly at the bottom of sort of the bullet points, the responsibilities that you've had in that role, just to give that person who's reading the CV, again, a bit of a picture. That's what you're looking to do, build this picture for somebody who's reading your CV about you as a person. It's not just a piece of paper. We talk a lot about that at GEES, that, you know, when we represent candidates, we're not representing a CV. It's not about paper, it is about people. And that is exactly what people buy into, people by people, and that's what it's all about. So ensure that you're really kind of having that come across on your CV. So when you talk about each individual job, I think maybe some people are a bit unsure about how much detail to give with regards to this. So I think generally it depends again on what you're applying to. So you want to ensure that a majority of your career history is on your CV. And ideally you don't want that to go over sort of 2 pages. If it is a bit longer because you've had some really in-depth detailed roles that are relevant to the role you're applying to, then do ensure that you cover those, because you don't want to be cutting out information that's going to be useful for that potential employer or potential agencies looking at your CV. The other thing as well, I think, is that you know, we are kind of, it's easy to maybe get carried away with all the things that you can do. So if you've had loads of responsibilities, it's really great to list those, but you also want to make sure that you are keeping to that clear, concise message on your CV. So try and condense that a little bit. I always find that bullet points are a great way to do that. Or you can maybe write a brief paragraph to start with, then kind of responsibilities in bullet points. This way, the person who's looking at your CV can look quite quickly at that CV and establish whether or not you are the right person for this particular position, and then they'll decide whether you get shortlisted for the role. So again, the clear and conciseness, I can't emphasise how important it is to have that on your CV. So once you've done that, you'll kind of move through the rest of your CV, covering the rest of your career history. And then at the bottom of that, you probably then want to include your education. So if you're applying for a role that is specifically requiring a degree in a particular specialism, then I would make sure you put that at the top of your CV, because that's obviously a key thing that you want to highlight to the employer. But you maybe don't have to put all your education history right at the top of your CV, because it can take quite a big bulk up at the top of your CV. And for an employer, that might not really be the thing they're looking for when they're looking at a CV. So I would probably highlight maybe that you have a degree maybe in health and social care if you're applying for something in the care sector, and maybe mention exactly what that covers. And then at the bottom of the C, underneath career history, you'll then want to elaborate on what that was, where you studied, etc., and then cover things like GCSEs. Again, it probably just depends on the type of role that you're actually the role that you're actually applying for. I kind of talk about recruiting all the time because that's what I'm doing every day. So you want to make sure that you are actually aware of what you're applying to. That way, then the recruiter or the employer can identify easily whether or not actually this person's going to be right. If this person has O levels, for example, then that might not be necessarily relevant to the role that they are applying to. Their more recent experience is going to be probably stronger than, say, their educational history. So again, bear that in mind when you're writing your CV. The next thing really is maybe interest and hobbies. So interests and hobbies I think is really important to have on your CV, because people want to know a bit about you, and as much as you can say you're great at this and you're a fantastic organiser, you're really dedicated to the work that you do, I also want to sort of find out a bit more about you as a person. As I mentioned, it's about a person and it's not just about paper and your CV. So you want to also ensure that actually you've taken some time in research and include that sort of maybe in your interests and hobbies. So make it interesting, you know, the fact that you might go to the gym, great, but actually elaborate a little bit. Tell me a bit more about you as a person, because that's going to maybe build up picture for me that I'm looking for from that individual. So if they've got that far in your CV, it's a good sign. They're obviously interested in the information that you've got on your CV. So tell them a little bit more about you and hope that might seal the deal for you. So that's kind of a snapshot of what really a CV should cover. I hope that's kind of been useful. In regards to tailoring a CV, I think that's really important. So we've covered the sort of generic side. I think now when you're looking to apply for a job that you really want, you do want to ensure that you're understanding what you're applying to. If, for example, you have a strong CV that's an administrative CV, can't say it today, then you want to ensure that the role that you're applying to obviously reflects the fact that you've got those strong admin skills. So you may not actually need to change your CV at all. But then if you're looking to maybe apply for a project coordinator position, you might need to think a little bit more about how those skills actually transfer and where maybe your stronger organisational skills will come into that CV. So again, it's just normally tweaking rather than completely overhauling your CV, because hopefully you'll be applying to roles that effectively will be working to your strengths. So in those transferable skills really. So that's the most important thing. So, you know, we do see so many CVs, especially we know it's a crowded marketplace right now, so it's important to try and stand out. The best way that you can do that is just be a true representation of yourself and ensure that your CV is clear and concise, that you're not using any crazy formatting, so try and keep it straightforward. Loads of boxes and graphs and things I think probably aren't necessary for most applications. If you are a graphic designer, then something like that is quite different, because you'll have a portfolio normally that will follow your CV. So again, I would suggest to be creative with your CV because you want to show off your skills. But if you are following that up with a portfolio, then I probably would ensure that your CV is, again, clear, concise, it keeps all that information together, and it's easily readable for the person who's looking at your CV. Because to bear in mind that you might be applying for a graphic design position, but the person reading your CV might actually be sat in HR. So the person who's looking at your CV may just feel, actually, it's a bit overwhelming to look at this CV. I'm not really quite sure where this person's skill sets lie, and they might just pass on it, when actually you could be the perfect person for that job. So let your portfolio do your talking for you, let the CV talk about the key aspects of why you'd be good for that role. So hopefully that will give you a bit more of an advice on that side of things. So that pretty much covers the CV writing side of things. I can't see any questions, so I'm going to move on to the cover letter. Now, I probably would say as an agency, we see less of these because, you know, we advertise many sort of various jobs. We do sometimes get CVs and it's great to see them. And I think that they are definitely worthwhile doing depending on the role that you're applying to. So I think if you are really keen to find that perfect job, then the best thing for you to do is definitely just take maybe 5-10 minutes, write a short cover letter. It hasn't got to be war and peace in terms of everything that you've done that would make you great for this job. That will probably just switch off an employer's interest. So ideally, what you want to be doing is actually taking the job description and using the cover letter as kind of your selling tool, really. It's going to be the tool that's going to say, do you know what, I've read your job description, I feel I've got these skills, this is the job that I want to apply to, and this is why I think you should call me today. So that's maybe the sort of brief that you want to think about when you're talking into your cover letter. So almost think that you're talking to that employer when you're writing it. So for example, if it's going to be, I don't know, it could be a data analyst role, you want to find out maybe who is recruiting for that role. So if it's not advertised on the actual advert, you maybe want to go and do a LinkedIn research, find out maybe who could be that point of contact. If you're unsure, then put it down to HR department or dear employer, or just the company name will be absolutely fine. Or you could be really old-fashioned, put Sir or Madam, but ideally if you can find someone who you can actually address it to, that would be great. And then below that, you just want to talk about the fact that you are looking to apply for X job. So I'm reading with interest your advert, I would like to apply for the data analyst role that you've advertised in said, it could be, I don't know, job sites, it could be, Reed, it could be through an agency, etc. So think about the role that you're actually applying to and use that job title in the cover letter. And then what you want to do is you want to list why you feel actually after reading that you would be great for the position. So again, in a couple of paragraphs, just write down why you feel they should maybe think about contacting you for this position, and that you'd be really interested and keen to have an interview, whether that be over the phone, Zoom, or face-to-face. We have to think of all these things now, and be happy to talk to them more in detail about your experiences that you feel will be able to set you aside from the competition. So that's pretty much what a cover letter is. It's really just your selling tool. It's there to be your pitch, it's your sales pitch effectively. So think about it like that, and I don't think you can go far wrong with a cover letter really. Make sure again that you're just signing off, best wishes, yours sincerely, however you feel that you want to do that, and attach that with your CV. I think actually some employers do use a lot of application forms, which makes it difficult to include things like cover letters. So if there is any areas where it says, tell us about you, then use that almost as your cover letter, and do make sure that you cover information about the job and why you'd be good for it, rather than just, oh, this is me and I've covered all the information, or just leave it blank, because it will just go to show that you're putting in the effort. And that's what employers and agencies like ourselves here at Juice, we're going to see a CV, and if someone's gone to a lot of effort to put that into a cover letter or into a profile, I'm going to have more interest in reading that rather than just a blank CV that just has the basics on it. So definitely worthwhile thinking about that. So when it comes to applying for the job that you really want, again, as mentioned, it's a really crowded marketplace. So I think standing out is key, and that is hard to do right now. I think from speaking to candidates, the market is tough and people are applying to a lot of jobs. So the competition is high. When we're talking to our clients, they're getting inundated with applications. So it makes it challenging on both sides really, to ensure that your CV is the one that gets read. So I guess what can make you stand out is just doing that a little bit extra work. So if it's the dream job, or it's the job that you really, really want, then take the time and invest in doing some research. A really great way to do that, there's so many online tools now, so you can search on the company website, you could use their LinkedIn page, you could use any social media platforms they might be using. So most companies nowadays have quite a broad spectrum of ways to actually understand a bit more about their company, understand a bit more about who they are and what they stand for, because again, you're not just applying for a job, you're applying to work within that organisation. So it's not just about your skill set, it's also about your suitability for the role. So in terms of your culture fit, your work ethic, everything like that is really important. So do think about those things as well when you're applying for a job and doing your research. So I really like to talk to candidates when they're prepping for either interviews or looking to apply for a job through us, is actually what made the job stand out to you. So think about that type of question. Why is this role a really great opportunity for you? Why do you feel actually you could bring some great skills to this position? So mentioned research, that's an obvious one. So you want to sort of do a bit on their history, understand how long they've been running for, understand the sort of people that are working for them. So on LinkedIn, you can really go in and see who's working for that company, what backgrounds they come from. Did they, are they all graduates? Are they people who have worked their way up in the company? That'll give you a good idea of the sort of person that they like to employ within their business. So all these things can be really useful tools for you. The other thing I like to mention, a lot of people don't necessarily do this, but actually when you're applying for a position, it's worthwhile looking at things like news stories. So what's been put out in the media about this company? Have they got recent announcements? Are they, got some really exciting projects that are happening? Are they developing, something new out there? So again, it's something actually that is a talking point, maybe for a cover letter. I read with interest that you're actually launching a new product into this market. I think that sounds fantastic. The reason why I'd be interested is because I've done something similar here. So again, it's really being able to sort of, highlight the fact that you've read something, use that to your advantage, and then put in the skills that you potentially have that would directly relate to you and why you potentially would be good for that position. A client's going to instantly recognise this person's taken the time to look at what we're doing, and they clearly have an invested interest. So I might actually have a chat with this person, see what they're all about. And that's the thing, all your CV is going to do is want to entice someone to pick up the phone and talk to you, or send you an email maybe. Hopefully be a phone call these days. So mention about sort of LinkedIn, employee background, employee information. You can also find out maybe where their offices are based through LinkedIn. A lot of companies have their information listed on LinkedIn about not just one office, but actually where they are maybe globally or internationally or just across the UK. So again, you could talk to them about whether you've actually supported on a national basis for a previous company. That sort of thing would be also something that people could miss, that are just applying and hitting send on their website. So these sort of things do make a big difference when you're applying. And as mentioned, tailor your application. So do pay attention to what you're applying to. I've had applications before where it's listed the wrong job title, or it's not given the right contact information, and that just puts me right off. As a recruiter, I'm thinking this person's just probably, blanket emailed me and probably loads of other people, for work. And I get that right now, people are looking just for a job because it's run up to Christmas. But that's the difference. If you're looking for a job, then that's the sort of application that you'll probably make. But if you're looking to stand out and you're the one that wants to get that job, then however sort of difficult it might be, just taking that little bit extra time will make a big difference, I think. So again, highlight your keywords. So again, in a job description, the client's really going to talk about the type of person, the key areas that they're looking for from this individual to join their business. So again, if they're talking about a highly motivated person, a highly organised person, someone who is able to think outside the box, someone who is used to solving problems, use those particular words in your cover letter, use them in your profile. A client will then instantly see synergy between your CV and their job description, and then I'll think, wow, this person is ticking all my boxes. So that's a really great way of being able to almost entice a client or an employer without even realising it. So that's one of my sort of key top tips. And then we're talking about online presence. So I think actually I've spoken to just a few people recently who are looking for work, and the first thing I've done is I've had a chat with them, I've logged onto my LinkedIn, I've looked at their profile and they've got nothing on there. You have to ensure that you are using your online presence because it's almost like a 24/7 CV. So if you are looking for work and you are looking to be found or apply for jobs, clients really are actually going to be hopping on to LinkedIn and seeing a little bit about you, especially depending on the level of work that you're searching for. So, if you are, for example, a team leader working in a call center and you have nothing to talk to me about your skill sets on your LinkedIn profile, I'm a bit bemused by why that might be. So I think the key thing is to ensure that your CV is reflected on your LinkedIn profile. So make sure you have a professional picture. It's not difficult. Today I'm working from home, I've got my juice banner behind me. Just make sure that you're going to take a picture of you that looks work professional and upload that to your profile. Ensure that you have information about how to contact you on your LinkedIn profile. So if you don't want loads of calls, then maybe just put your email address. People can reach out to you that way, or possibly direct message you on LinkedIn anyway. And then talk and use your personal profile. So your personal profile on LinkedIn is just like your cover letter. So tell them about your skill set, your achievements, what you actually are passionate about as a person, and then do list all your jobs on LinkedIn. Because again, if your CV is saying me one thing and then actually I'm going onto LinkedIn and I'm seeing something completely different, I'm going to start thinking, I don't really know which one I'm supposed to be thinking. My gut instinct would be CV probably would be more right and relevant. However, this person's not showing they've put the effort in on their online profile. So again, use that to your advantage. It could mean the difference of someone picking up the phone to you and someone just thinking this person's not really that interested or that dedicated on their work search. Also, LinkedIn is a great way to network. So whether you're looking for work or not, I think it's really key to have an up-to-date LinkedIn profile for various reasons. So again, I think LinkedIn is just one of the many platforms that you can use. I do think that there are a lot of clients out there using social media to understand a bit more about an individual. So do be careful and do be aware of what you're putting out on your social media. If you have an open profile, it's quite easy. If you don't want people to view your profile, just make that private. So on Instagram, you can do that quite easily. I'm not too sure if you can do that so much on Facebook. But again, you just want to make sure that what you've got on there is a true representation of you as a person, and that maybe if there's something on that you feel maybe if an employer sees that they may think something different of you, then just bear that in mind, because clients do look further afield when they are searching for applicants. So just be aware of that. But I think realistically, that kind of pretty much covers everything that I was going to cover today. I haven't had any questions, so hopefully that you're finding this useful. A few questions that I had previously, though, regarding CVs has been about people who are applying for roles who feel maybe they're overqualified. So this is quite a sort of a regular one that I get. I think when, if you are in a situation where you've been made redundant and you're looking to apply for work, but maybe that role is not something that is in line with, say, your career history, and that may be that search is on hold because of the current market situation. We know that is quite difficult in certain market sectors right now. Just think about how your CV looks when you're sending it to somebody. So if you are an experienced manager but you're applying for an admin job, just be aware of how that comes across. People will potentially think, oh yes, this person is far too overqualified. They won't want to stay in this role. And I can imagine a lot of people are getting that right now. The great thing is, though, is that I think those people can be a real attribute to that organisation. And although the job might not be exactly using all their skills, then you never know where it might lead. Naturally, they could find that you would be a great value to their business long term. So talk about your transferable skills. Maybe just scale back a little bit of your responsibilities. Don't make out that you have been as senior. We're not talking about keeping the truth off a CV, but very much you want to ensure that you're not over complicating things for a fairly straightforward position that you're applying to. So again, just be aware of what you're applying to, and the competition that you might be applying with is really important. And then I briefly just wanted to talk to you about the fact that we are obviously in our second lockdown, so lockdown 2.0. I think that what we're finding as well is people are maybe getting a little bit disheartened with their job search. They're finding it quite tough out there. And I agree, it's not the easiest thing to be doing, looking for a job right now while we're in lockdown and just weeks and weeks away from Christmas. So a lot of people do feel the pressure right now. So do contact us at Juice. We've got a range of different roles. We're doing another update next week on hot jobs. I'll be joined by my colleague Claire from our Cheltenham branch, and she's going to be joining me on that. So we're talking about lots of different and relevant available jobs that we're recruiting for across our region next week. But do check us out online. You can also find out a bit more about our events on our LinkedIn page. All our events are there from week to week, and that includes our Instagram lives and also any events that we're doing around HR forums and other kind of important things that we're doing across the region. So do check that out. But going back to the lockdown situation, I do think that it's important to try and stay positive. Positivity is the key thing, and I know that can be hard for some people, but you are choosing to be positive. So every morning you get up, talk about thinking about, I choose to do this today. I'm choosing to look for a job. I'm choosing to apply for these positions because I am worthy of getting a job, and I'm actually working really hard, and someone will see value in that for sure. I can guarantee it. It may take a little longer than normal, but if you are applying some of these sort of skills that I've mentioned today with your CV and your applications, then I think it will make a big difference to you. Write a list. Every day that you're getting up, then write a list. What are you going to do today, and what do you want to achieve out today? So actually, if it means I want to apply to 15 jobs in my sort of key skill area, then make sure that you do that on that day. And at the end of the day, you can think, well, actually, I've done that today. I feel like I've done a positive thing, and ensure that you're kind of checking in with yourself to ensure that you are achieving what you set out to do at the beginning of the day. Ensure that you have scheduled breaks, so whether you're working from home or you're just searching for work from home, it is really important to take a break. So maybe go for a walk around the block, go for a run if you feel up to it. Definitely go and get some fresh air. It's difficult when you're sat in the four walls of, like me, in my kitchen when I'm working, or possibly when you're at home, in your living room or upstairs in the spare room working, or looking for work. It can be demotivating just to kind of keep sat at your PC. So do make sure you go and get some fresh air, go and sort of take a break to allow you to sort of just reset for the afternoon. And also what's really important is mark the end of your day. So when you finish your day, definitely think about how moving away from your desk or moving away from that laptop when you've been applying for positions, thinking about what you can do at the end of that day to feel that you've got that break. It might just be as simple as going downstairs, making a cup of tea and sitting in front of the TV and watching the news for half an hour. If that's what you do every single day at the end of your day, then it'll feel like that's the end of your work day or the end of your job search day finished. I think that will definitely help those people who are struggling, because it's very easy. I'm at home working now like the majority of our staff at Juice, and I am a bit of a workaholic, so I do like to do that little bit extra, and a few of my colleagues will definitely agree that they're the same. So you do need to just sort of step away from the desk and step away from the phone and just think actually it's more important to be well rested than burn yourself out when you're working at home or looking for a new job. And just, stay proactive, don't get disheartened, keep applying to those jobs, and, it will happen for you. Here at Juice, we're still doing all our online Zoom registrations. We're also doing telephone calls with candidates as well. So do feel free to call us, book in a Zoom interview if you are interested in the jobs that we are recruiting for, or just want to have a chat about your CV. We are here to help and support. So I hope you've enjoyed today. Thanks so much for joining me. There will be another one next week. As mentioned, we will be doing hot jobs on the 17th of November, and I hope to see you then. Thanks so much. Bye.